this and that and what the fuck else, episode 119. In this episode I'll be talking something about the pestilence and stuff from the Donbass, some interesting stuff on the energy, a weird gender story, and then that nasty thing in Mozambique, and some stuff from Russia and Ukraine, and what a fuck to laugh about. Things are ugly here in South Africa on the energy side. The load shedding stage 6 is rough, and the UPSs are struggling because they don't get time to charge back to 100% between sessions. So that will obviously kill the batteries as well. It's ridiculous. And there is a lot of stories about the role of organized crime in our dilemma or debacle, whatever you want to call it. Reality is this fucking government needs to go. We need a regime change. There's no other way about it. We've got a bundle of criminals in charge of the country. And the first step is this republic must go. The republic must break up. This thing does not have the right to exist. Break the republic up. That's what we need. And then a lot of things will change. Because immediately the stranglehold of the ANC will be broken on the country. Immediately. But in any case, that is something for a complete skidmark. Let's start off with this art piece. It's once again a landscape photograph. It's a spectacular shot. I can just try and imagine what it must be to see that with your own eyes. And on a technical side, just look at the composition of this image and how that road leads your eye right through the image, and you see that tree, bough, everything. I like the shot. It's an easy 8. And then we get to the pestilence. And there's this post by Steve Kirsch. 95% of corpses had received the snake bite within 2 weeks of death, from a funeral director. Now I don't know what is really needed to set the ball rolling to get these guys that pushed this thing to bring them to book. But let's see. And then we get to the Donbass. And this is one of those ridiculous things about America, and once again just confirms their hypocrisy. The US moans about the Wagner PMC, while Western mercenaries fight for Kiev regime. As advances made by the Russia's Wagner group dominate the headlines, the US grumbles about the PMC's activities in global conflict zones, all while American paramilitary groups conduct very similar operations around the world, and plenty of Western mercenaries are currently fighting for Kiev. Take note of that, think about it, and laugh. The Americans are getting more ridiculous by the day. And then there's this sad story, and this is what the West is financing, and this is what the West is enabling, and this is what the West is going to pay for. The consequences of the morning shelling of the Hercules Moloko store based in the Leninsky district of Donetsk. 1 civilian was killed, 4 were injured. The investigative committee of the Russian Federation and the JCCC were working on this. Let's look at that. Can you imagine you live in a city that is being bombed by these sophisticated webs? You're a civilian. You've got your little shop there. And the next, this happens to you. And then there's this disturbing shit from the Donbass. Ukrainian military creating kamikaze drones loaded with chemical weapons. Now this was a video that I saw on Telegram, how they assemble those drones with these chemical canisters. Men in camo uniforms and blue armbands are shown loading domestic drones in an unverified video posted on Telegram with what appears to be toxic hydroxycyanic acid. The substance was used in German concentration camps to exterminate Jews during World War II. The Ukrainian armed forces, allegedly the 63rd Brigade, reportedly assisted in the chemical weapons creation, the author of the video claims, adding there are already hundreds of them in circulation, soon to be ramped up into the thousands. The chemical, the Zyklon B pesticide, has long been outlawed by the international law. Now, let's wait and see. There's already been reports of the Ukrainians using chemical weapons. Let's see where this goes. Then we get to the energy, and this was now true Putin. Putin suggests that Germans go to Siberia for firewood. In 2010, answering questions from participants of an economic forum in Berlin, Vladimir Putin was surprised by Germany's energy policy. I don't understand, what will you use for heating? You don't want gas? You don't develop nuclear power? Are you going to use wood for heating? But you have to go to Siberia for firewood. You don't even have any firewood, he said. Then everyone in the hall laughed in unison. 12 years has passed, and they're scrambling for wood. And then we get to this. I just laughed when I saw it. Belgium to extend the life of 2 nuclear reactors by 10 years. And then the poster said, so the so-called experts found out we still need electricity. And that is true. Now the next thing is about this gender balsam. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can stop the video if you want to read the whole story. But in essence, it comes down to this man in Ecuador who changed his gender to a woman. And he did that so that he could get custody of his kids. Ramos Salinas Ramos took the dramatic step of changing his legal gender while embroiled in a fierce custody battle with the allegedly abusive biological mother of his daughters, since Ecuador law arguably favors mothers over fathers in custody proceedings. Ramos decided that if he couldn't beat them, he would join them. And now apparently the whole gender-screwed community is up in arms about it. And then there was this interesting post by this guy, and I used it specifically because this is something that I've been thinking about a lot. A wise autocratic ruler with the instruments of effective rule, functional civil service apparatus, is the best form of government. However, it can also be the worst, most tyrannical on the flip side. Democracy is a middle road, but seems to let the best rise when it's needed. However, I would also say geography and culture, which is in a large part downstream of geography, has a large impact on determining what type of rule is best suited to which country. America, open, well defended by borders and natural abundance, is well suited to the laissez-faire. Yeah, this is the big thing that I've got issues with, that the West, and specifically America, has got this fucking idea that their system of democracy and their version of democracy is what should be applied and implemented around the world. And if you're not like that, you're a rogue government. And then we get to that nasty thing in Mozambique. I spoke about it in a Briekmerke, and here is clips from that video. It shows South African Defence Force soldiers watching while corpses are being burned on that heap. And here's an image also from Mozambique. And this is another thing that happened. Mozambique, the Islamic State has published photos in the aftermath of the attack on the location of the Mozambican armed forces in the province of Cabo Delgado. According to the group's statement, 3 servicemen were killed by the jihadists. The attackers also got weapons from the government troops. In total, once the beginning of the year, the ITO has announced 4 terrorist attacks in Mozambique. Now it's going rough there in that northern part of Mozambique, and I don't know what our South African Defence Force is going to do when these buggers start moving south. But there is already rumours that there are cells of ISIS in KwaZulu. And then that burning of the corpse made it to the television. Warning, graphic investigation launched as video of soldiers burning bodies appear online. An investigation has been launched by the South African military after a blood-curdling video emerged online, allegedly showing a group of soldiers throwing the corpses of jihadists onto the fire in neighbouring Mozambique. The military stressed that if it turns out that the South African troops were involved in wrongdoing, they will be brought to justice. Let's see how far they get with that story. And then we get to this, and we all know that our president, which is actually not our president, he's the president of the ANC, he has said that black people must not fear white people because white people don't have any power anymore. And then Herman Mashaba made this tweet: if this statement by the president is not racist, then I don't know what racism is. A blanket statement like this can only further fuel racism in our volatile country, which the ANC has dismally failed to unite after many years of National Party apartheid system. I think this story of Cyril is going to have some serious fallout. And then we get to Russia. Open calls for the Slavs' extermination. Renowned Russian political commentator Sergei Mikheyev quotes famous Western politicians in a radio program. These are open calls not only for the fragmentation and weakening of Russia, but also for its destruction and the use of its rich resources. Once again about the reasons for the special military operation. If anyone still has doubts about the compelled actions of the Russian Federation, the reality is, it is quite clear. Russia is fighting for its survival. Russia is they cannot lose. If they lose, Russia is gone and a lot of Russians will be gone. And Putin knows that. But the West keeps on pushing. And then we have this, was a video by Scott Ritter. I watched it. I'm just showing you the headlines here. Given the duplicitous history of the Minsk Accords, it is unlikely Russia can be diplomatically dissuaded from its military offensive. And that is, unfortunately, the reality. There's nothing to really compel Russia to talk about peace. Nothing. The West can't offer it anything. And then we get to this. This could have been a what the fuck. The father of 102 stops having children due to inflation. Dad of 102 stops having kids due to inflation. He has decided to stop growing his family because of inflation. He's a 67-year-old farmer from Uganda who has 102 kids. He has decided that the 103rd child will be a step too far in today's economic climate and has decided to use birth control. But then I must just add here that he's got 12 wives. And then we're in the Ukraine. And interesting note. It's high time for Russia to destroy satellites over Ukraine. Give 3 days to remove all satellites. If not, then destroy them. Maybe then the West will believe in the seriousness of Russia's intentions. MI6 sent intelligence to the office of the President and the General Staff that the Kremlin again began discussing the option of destroying satellites over Ukraine. And I've read quite a lot about this, and the one guy said that the modern Western weapon systems depends heavily on satellite communication. If you take that away, most of our systems are totally useless. And then we have this. Look at those two headlines. A day without dead Russians isn't a complete day. And then the other next headline, German social media influencer parrots pro-Russian propaganda. The two headlines from the same Western newspaper. First, they normalize the killing of Russians in general. It doesn't specify about soldiers or civilians. Then they target pro-Russian journalists for doing their work. This newspaper is an accomplice of the Ukrainian terrorist kidnapping and murdering civilians. This is going to backfire big time. And Ukrainians are going to pay for this. And then we get to the US and listen to this craziness. Feds consider a ban on gas-powered stoves to address pollution problem. And now I have to add, today they came out with another story and they reckon the gas stoves give children asthma. Desperation, feds consider ban on gas-powered stoves to address pollution problem. And as I said, today I saw another article in which they now claim they still want to stop it because it induces asthma in children. And then here is some madness. Look at this thing. And this was in response, somebody made this in response to one of the American politicians that had the crazy idea that a bust of Zelensky must be put in the Capitol building. Total what a fuck, if I can say something about it. Are they crazy? And then we have this very interesting. US conflicts from Panama to Iraq, Somalia, Haiti, Bosnia, Kosovo, Serbia, Afghanistan, Sudan, Philippines, Afghanistan again, Iraq for the third time, and Syria. No authorization by the UN Security Council. They were all illegal and worse, imperial and worse still, evil. And that is the truth. But the Americans, their time is running out. I listened to a very long debate this evening, and the one guy is ex-CIA, and he said the Americans has got a serious fucking problem. They don't have the weapons to match Russia and China. They don't have the industries to build those weapons anymore. And they, worst of all, they don't have the industries required to produce the volumes of ammunition needed. Their current, in 155mm, their current production capacity is 10,000 rounds a month. The Ukraine uses 5,000 rounds a day. Think about that. And then we have this. The Prime Minister of Sweden said that the country is preparing to transfer Archer self-propelled guns to Ukraine. Looks quite a capable piece of machinery, that. But if history is anything to go by, the Russians are going to wipe them out very quickly. And then we have this. If modern Western main battle tanks were wrecked and rendered ineffective by irregular forces in Syria and Yemen, what does Poland, the UK and others imagine will happen in the Ukraine? Just as HIMARS, M777 and all the other wonder weapons transferred have not reversed the catastrophic losses of the Ukrainian forces, neither will transferring a few tanks. And that is the truth. And this is quite a long piece, and I'm also not going to read all of it. You can stop it if you want to read of it, but it just says here, the Western TNCs are in favor of an endless conflict in Ukraine because it's very beneficial. The capitalization of the top 26 Western military corporations that supply weapons to Ukraine grew by 21.7% in 2022, from $579 billion to $705 billion. Compared to 2021, these companies intend to increase their annual revenue by 26%, by $97 billion by 2025, from 378 to 475 billion. Another beneficiary of the Ukrainian conflict is Western energy corporations. The revenue of the top 50 Western energy corporations in 2021 amounted to 2.7 trillion and in 2022 increased by 1.2 trillion, 45%, exceeding 3.91 trillion. Let that sink in. It's a money-making racket, that. And then we have this, and this should make the Americans very worried. Russian hypersonic missiles are at the tip of a tech revolution. Washington is falling behind in the hypersonic arms race. According to a new report that ranked countries' weapons capabilities around the globe, the article in Popular Mechanics magazine revealed that Russia and China possess the world's most advanced and efficient weapon, the hypersonic missile, while Washington is lagging behind with 8 hypersonic weapons projects that are only in the development stages. That should make think. And then we get to that, what the fuck, and this is a tongue in the cheek, what the fuck, and just look at it and look at it again and just smile. Poland to deliver Leopard tanks to Ukraine. Polish President Andrzej Duda has announced the delivery of a company of modern German-made Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. And this pink tank, because apparently there's a hell of a lot of gays in Poland. So, on that note, please give me a like, and a subscribe, and share the thing. Have a great evening.